again. In this video, we are going to talk about how can you do performance appraisals. As I told before, that performance appraisal is one of the very important aspects of people management. And wherever you're working in whatever industry, you will always have to go through a performance appraisal cycle as an employee and as well as a manager. And it's important to understand that when you sit and talk with the employee, whether it's up to 6 months or 1 year, depends on your organization's appraisal cycle, how would you talk to that guy? How would you convince him regarding the rating or the ranking he's receiving, right? Or how he did well, or whether he did well at all, right? So what kind of conversation you'll be striking with the employee? What are the methods and tactics that you will employ when you sit with that person? So all these things we'll just learn in this very short video. So let's get started. Let's start with the definition of performance appraisal, and it was articulated very well, none other by very famous author Edwin Flippo in 1984. So he stated that performance appraisal is the systematic, periodic, and an impartial rating of an employee's excellence in the matters pertaining to his present job and his potential for a better job. What are the different objectives of an appraisal? Why do we have to do an appraisal? The first one, very important, to understand and measure the performance of an employee at the end of semester or at the end of year. How did the employee do? Whether he's struggling or he has done excellent work. How did he do? So to understand and measure the performance of an employee, that's one of the primary objective of an appraisal. Another objective is also to reward the good performers through bonus plans or increment or promotions. The good performers should get the reward or should get the higher percentage of the organization's profit, right? So that he not only becomes happy and satisfied, but he also gets that motivation that the organization is recognizing his good performance, and that's why they are rewarding me with that. So next year he should work with a lot of energy once again. To identify the underperformers, plan and take action to improve their performance in the next cycle. This is again a very important objective of an appraisal. Just similarly, how we want to identify the star performers, we would also want to identify who are my laggards and sweet poison. So I also want to identify that, and I also want to put a plan through and take action to improve the performance of that person in the next cycle. And of course, the overall objective is also to keep the workforce motivated, so they have something to look forward to at the end of the cycle. There are so many different methods by which you can do an appraisal, and it again depends on the organization that you are in or the industry that you are in. There are various methods. Because right from the 1940s to 1950s and then 70s, 80s, different generation have applied different methods to measure the performance of an employee, right? So we're not going to talk about all of these in detail because that's not the area of focus over here. But I just wanted you guys to know that there are different methods of appraisal. There are checklist method. There is a very popular forced distribution method that is something that you will see very often in a lot of your organization, wherein you will have a bell curve, and people would be put in some forced ranking, like 10% people in the good category, the last 10% in the bad category, and in the middle there would be another set of employees. So a forced distribution method is there. Forced choice method is there, SM method is there, grading method, so where you start grading an employee on a rating scale. Field review method is there. There is ranking method, wherein you provide good ranking to a set of people and then bad ranking to another set of people, so just black and white kind of a situation. There is also critical incident method, balanced scorecard method, and the recently the most followed method of organizations these days are management by objectives method, wherein at the start of the year or semester or the performance cycle, an employee is given a set of objectives to achieve by his or her manager, and then at the end of the cycle or the year, that employee, when the manager and the employee sits over the performance appraisal discussion, they basically discuss whether the employee was able to achieve the objective or not able to. So based on that, the discussion happens. So management by objective is one of the recent methods that's getting followed. But if you're really interested to know about, and again, there are more than this, that what you see over here, I just try to put in some of the methods here. There are more to this. So if you want to learn about each one of this method, if you have some interest in those area, I will put one link below in my video. There's an article there, you can go there and read about this. Let's get to the core of the discussion for this video. How would you do the appraisal discussion? And this is where a lot of managers struggles. This is a very challenging situation for a manager to sit in front of an employee and tell him a good news or tell him a bad news, right? Because you know that if you have a good news, you are kind of relaxed inside. You know that that the employee did well, so the discussion will go in a smooth way. But when you know that I have a bad news for the employee, that the employee did not achieve his objective, or the employee did not rank well in the performance cycle, then at the back of your mind you will always have this fear that once I disclose the rating or the ranking, how will the employee react? So it's an important part of your management duty and responsibility. So let's see how you can channelize this discussion. So one way to make this discussion a very easy and smooth one is to make sure that the appraisal discussion is not a surprise at the end of the cycle or year. It's the last discussion of all the monthly discussions. So remember, in the feedback session video, how to give feedback to employee, in that video we talk in detail regarding how to provide feedback and how to document feedback, right? So just make sure that if you are thorough with your feedback mechanism, monthly or quarterly, whatever, if you're very thorough with your feedback mechanism and frequency, then the performance appraisal discussion becomes very easy for you, right? Then basically you have given a lot of feedbacks to the employee. You had a lot of touch points with an employee all throughout the cycle, and then when you're finally sitting with the employee, you are basically summarizing what you discussed all the way through. So the employee knew all the way through how he performed. So it will not come as a surprise for him that he did not get a good grade or an excellent grade in case his rating is bad. So it's basically the last discussion of all the monthly discussion that already have happened, and it should basically be a summation of all the one-on-one discussion, your observation and customer feedbacks that you have already given. This is just to consolidate those into one. So it can be very easy one, and even before you start the discussion, the employee would know that what's coming up. Keep detailed notes of all the one-on-ones that has happened previously of the past feedback, because when an employee already know what's coming up, he might be mentally prepared to absorb the news. However, he might also be prepared with some cross questioning that he might throw at you, some difficult question he might throw at you. So in order to rebut those things, you need to keep all this documentation handy. Let's say you have met with an employee 5 times in a year or 6 times in a year, and in out of those 6 times, maybe 80% of the time you had bad feedback for the employee. You kept on asking the employee for improving on his behavior or performance, right? So when you are finally providing him an average or a poor rating, the employee would of course know what has happened throughout the year, so he is already prepared for the bad news. But he is also prepared with he might be prepared with a set of questions for you. Sometimes employee can get into a comparison mode, like I know another team member who performed like me, but he's getting a better rating. And normally in all the organization, disclosure of individual rating is not allowed as per the corporate policy. So if the employee start getting into a comparison mode, do stop that, right? Do set up the expectation that let's not talk about other person's rating, because as per the company policy that's not allowed, right? So let's talk about what you are getting and how you can improve, right? It's always important to focus on the individual, right? Because even if some other person is getting a good rating or a bad rating, that does not help this particular individual, right? So this particular individual can only be helped if he or she understands what's required and then actions on it to better the performance. So keep those detailed notes of one-on-one and feedback, so that if required, and if you are faced with difficult question, you can always present that we always discussed about this, look at this, you have signed this, we discussed this, but we did not see any improvement. That's exactly why you are getting this grade or rating or rank. At the starting, allow the employee to reflect upon his or her performance. So when you start the discussion, do not reveal the rating straight away. Always start the discussion with allowing the employee to reflect upon his performance. That will basically also give you an idea of what's coming up your way. And when an employee gets the first preference to reflect upon his or her performance, he or she also feels very valued, that you are in a mode of listening how he did, or what he thinks how he did, right? So allow that reflection to happen, right? And then you start with your perspective and feedback. Employee should understand that he did well or he did poor, but he must understand why he or she did well or bad, and what is the next goal, right? This is one section a lot of managers tends to skip. So let's say you are getting into a discussion where the employee did very well in that particular appraisal cycle, and he is one of your star performer. We normally do not spend a lot of time in that discussion. We basically give them the good news that you have done great, keep it up, and then we skip to the next person. And that is not a good idea, because as I said, the star performers, they are mostly self-motivated people, right? So they already know how they're doing well or how they're doing, and they already expect good rating. But I also told that the star performers needs appropriate challenges and direction from you. If they are not getting that appropriate challenge and direction, then they will quickly get out of focus and disengaged, and they might leave you at some point or the other, or your organization. So it's very important, when an employee particularly has done well, we do not end those discussion in short time. We provide them a feedback that, okay, you did extremely well, but you also provide them your perspective, what you have observed, why he did well, right? Because a lot of time we know we are doing well, but we do not know why we are doing well, right? So it's important that you tell them. So let's say for an example, you are sitting with an employee who has got a great rating, and you're saying to him or her that you have done extremely well. I agree with you that you have done extremely well. And we have decided to give you this particular rating for this appraisal cycle. Now, it's also important for you to understand why you have done well. You are actually doing very well because the customer is appreciating your patience and your help every time they come to you, right? And basically the area where you are excelling is you're displaying great attitude, patience and behavior whenever customer is coming to you for help. Even if the customer is frustrated or angry, you are keeping your cool, right? And that is basically helping the customer also to calm down, and then you are getting into the real issues and challenges. So I think that's the area that is helping you to do well with your customer, right? So I think you should harness that area and should never let that go, right? So just to give you an example, when you're talking with an employee, when you're providing him the good news, also tell him your observation on why he's doing well, so that he continues that and he gets the same result next time also. And then don't end the discussion without giving him the next challenge or another direction. Maybe it would be a good idea to ask him, so you did so well this year, so what's your next year's plan, right? What do you want to do next? Yeah, ask the employee what's his next plan, and he would talk about what he's interested to do. So you will automatically know his interest area and where he wants to work in. So if feasible, provide him that challenge. If not feasible, and if you think that your team does not deal with that department or deal with that technology to help him out, try to work across within your organization and your peers to see how you can help that person to get to where he desires. That's also a sign of a good manager. And of course, use all the feedback skills that you have learned before in my earlier video. All the feedback skills that you have learned, you will have to use them whenever you are faced with difficult questions from the employee, or retaliation or disagreement, right, regarding the rating or grading. So use those feedback skills to rebut employee, have those one-on-one handies. It will help you a lot to calm the employee down and make the employee realize that the rating or the grade that he's receiving for this particular appraisal cycle is justified. All right, so with this we come to the end. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.